Good morning, I'm freezing cold, I'm in my Tesla Model 3, it has stayed here over the night and the battery temperature is minus 0.5 degrees Celsius, so really cold battery. And not only that, this car has an LFP battery, which is known for worse charging performance in cold weather. So this is the worst case scenario. I'm going to head over to a DC fast charger, a Tesla supercharger. I'm not going to precondition the car. I'm going to use as little power as possible to not heat up the battery. I'm going to completely disable regen, which I can do. It's this one. Off, regen off. We probably don't have that much regen anyways, because the battery is cold and then it won't accept regen, because regen is exactly the same as charging. It is power to the battery to add energy to the battery. So regen and charging is both very reduced when the battery is as cold as now. So the battery temperature is minus 0.5 degrees Celsius. Just to put it into perspective for you, if you don't know if that's cold or not, a battery should be around 30 degrees Celsius to charge. That's the optimal charging, starting charging temperature for most batteries. Tesla is a little bit warmer, I think 35 degrees, something like that, and then it thermal throttles at around 50 degrees Celsius. So this is really, really, really cold. And you might ask, if I plug in the car now, what will happen? Well, I don't really know. This is an LFP car, so it needs to heat the battery before we can charge. And the reason is not that it just can't accept the charge, it is to protect the battery. Because when the battery is cold, we can get something called lithium plating. You can look at it as like a frozen swamp that won't absorb the water because the battery is too cold. And then the lithium ions will like clog up outside the anode, and then we will get a damaged battery. So it protects against that. You don't need to worry about this. All electric cars that exist today have this protection built in. It just will like throttle the charging speed and heat the battery. Keep in mind that this is the worst of the worst kind of scenario. In normal conditions, you will precondition to the charger. So on the way to the charger, you will heat the battery. You can see it's minus 5 degrees outside right now. It will heat the battery, or you would have it plugged in. It wasn't plugged in overnight, then it would keep the battery a little bit warmer than this, and you can easily precondition the car before driving. So many opportunities to heat the battery, but today we won't do that. We will run over to the fast charger and just plug it in and see what happens. I have completely disabled the HVAC system. I have disabled the regen just to make sure that the car is as cold as possible before we plug in at the supercharger. This is a version 2 supercharger. What that means is that it is shared, and there are probably a lot of people at the supercharger right now because of the temperature outside. It is cold outside, and then more people need to charge. But it doesn't really matter, because if we need to share 70 kilowatts, I don't think this car will accept that right now anyways. So we are just going to plug in and then see what happens. It will be really fun. Now that regen is actually disabled in this car, I think since the battery is so cold, it would be like disabled anyways, but I just took an extra precaution to disable it via the sexy knob, just to make sure that, of course, we don't put any unnecessary heat into the battery, because that's what you do when you regen. You charge the battery, you add heat to the battery. So let's go. Slow acceleration, just up to speed, and no hard acceleration. Just trying to keep the battery as cool as possible. It is now minus 0.3 degrees Celsius, so a little bit warmer than when we started, but still, I would say extremely cold for an electric car battery that's supposed to be charged. So I hope the protections in the battery work from Tesla. If not, we will absolutely destroy the car. But I have pretty good confidence in Tesla here. While I'm not accelerating hard at all, I can feel that I have plenty of power in the car. It's not very reduced power. I feel like, for example, the ID Bus, with the older drivetrain in the ID Bus that we had in Europe up until right now, really, had worse cold weather, like acceleration performance and stuff like that. We have limited regen. We probably don't have full power. I don't want to test that right now, as the battery is increasing in heat. But just a side note, I feel like I have enough power. I don't feel like there are any problems just jumping into an electric car and go without preconditioning the cabin or the battery at all. You have plenty of power to get around in this Tesla, at least. I feel like that's a very good thing about electric cars. No warm-up, no waiting, no cranking, nothing. Just get in the car and go immediately. That's one of the nice things about electric cars in the winter. They will always start, and especially the Teslas. They are really great at just get going. The battery temperature is at 0.3 degrees Celsius, so really cold still, and we are at the supercharger. Preheating battery charge will start in 15 minutes, and just as I expected, we need to actually heat the battery before we can charge. So you can see the battery temperature here is 0.3 degrees Celsius, and it doesn't matter if we share a stall with the guy beside us, which is actually sleeping, it seems like. Anyways, 15 minutes before we can start charging. That's insane. And as we can see here, the rear inverter is going, so it's actually using the rear motor to generate heat, because this car doesn't have a dedicated heater. It uses the rear motor. And you can see that the battery is slowly heating. And yeah, 2 kilowatts at the rear inverter, which is connected to the rear motor. So that's the way they generate heat for the battery in a Tesla. And since this is a rear-wheel drive car, we only have the rear inverter for the rear motor, rear single motor. And charging has started. 6 kilowatts, 7 kilowatts, very slow, and down to 6 kilowatts. You can see it's extremely slow at 43%. We should expect at this location we are right now, splitting with the guy, closer to 90 kilowatts, I would say, depending on his charge rate. So we get 8 of the 90 kilowatts that we are supposed to get. 2 kilowatts on the inverter still, and the battery temperature is now 1 degree, and it's 12:40. Minus 4 degrees outside, so not extremely cold, but pretty cold, I would say. And yeah, the climate is still off. 10 kilowatts and slowly climbing. I just want to come with a disclaimer here that this is not something that people will experience ever, because people preheat their cars from their app or automatically before they leave. 2, they can navigate to this supercharger, so they don't need to preheat before leaving, but they can navigate to this supercharger so the car warms the battery on the way. And third of all, even if you don't do any of this, you probably want to drive like half an hour, 1 hour before reaching a charger instead of 5 minutes like me, and then you automatically get a higher temperature in the battery because it optimizes it for driving. So this is a very rare case forced scenario. This up to 3.5 degrees Celsius, and for the LFP battery this means an 18 kilowatts charging rate. This is now almost, this is now faster than a home charger, which is nice. Still at 44%. And the rear inverter is still going at 2.5 kilowatts to heat the battery. It also warns me here, battery temperature low. Charge rate limited by low battery temperature. Vehicle is improving battery temperature to increase charge rate, which is nice. 19 kilowatts. It's so slow. It's now 12:45. I can hear the motor going here. which is nice, and that's the way they heat the battery. Next time, navigate to a supercharger, and this is a great tip for sure, because then we would have gotten much faster charging speed there. 5.5 degrees Celsius, and the time is now 12:47, and 19 kilowatts still. No improvement just yet. I think we need to break through the 10 degrees Celsius barrier here. If you decide to buy a Tesla before the year's end, this is a really bad advertisement for Tesla, really. But if you decide to buy a Tesla, I would really appreciate if you use tesla.roamingnorway.com. The link really helps me out, and the equipment that I buy via that link will be featured on this channel, just like the tire compressor that I featured, and we will see what the future brings. But I really want to review the items, look at the items, and use them on this channel to thank you for using my link. In addition, you get a discount on a Tesla. It's a win-win situation for you, me, and Tesla, of course. They are selling another car, so please use someone's link. If you don't have one, please use my link, tesla.roamingnorway.com. Thank you so much. We are cold gating hard. Cold gating is a term that you might have heard before. It's the lack of the ability to heat the battery to a proper charging temperature. 20 kilowatts still, and we are at 7.8 degrees Celsius, so it's slowly climbing up, but not fast enough with this rear inverter maxing out, which is the rear motor sound that I showed you earlier. 22 kilowatts, and the time is 12:50 now, so we have been here for a little while, about 15-16 minutes, I think. So yeah, interesting, and we have only gained like a few percentages. So yeah, let's see what happens. 22 kilowatts, finally. You might ask, what happens if I turn on the climate? Well, I can do that, no problem. But we will see a drop in charging rate because the battery heat goes into this cabin instead to heat me, which I don't really care about right now. So I'll turn off the climate system just to get the battery heat up as fast as possible. This is just for testing, because it's really annoying to freeze like this on a road trip. And again, it wouldn't really happen because you precondition the battery before reaching the fast charger. I need to re-emphasize that so many times, because a lot of people will say that this is how electric cars act in winter. I really needed to force this situation to happen just for the sake of science. While I'm sitting here freezing my butt off, I can talk about how I get this information. There are many ways. You can just use an OBD reader that's compatible with Scan My Tesla, but this is the Sexy Commander, which I installed there, which also enables this cool knob, which works fantastic. This is what I use to turn off regen. You can do off regen with the buttons as well. You don't need this knob. Anyways, it's the OBD thing that's installed there in combination with the app here, which gives me this kind of information, which is absolutely fantastic. 1 hour to get from 50 to 80%, absolutely insane. 23 kilowatts, and that's what you are allowed to charge at 11.5 degrees Celsius. And the time is now 12:57. We have been there for quite a while right now, 20 minutes, something like that. Absolutely insane. I went into the store for a few minutes. I grabbed some bacon, and I came back, and just 28 kilowatts still. The time is 13:06, which is the same as 1:06 p.m. for the Americans out there. 14.8 degrees Celsius. The inverter is still going like crazy. I could hear the heat pump working. The steering wheel is shaking, which is what happens when the Tesla heat pumps goes at the maximum. Anyways, the climate is still off. It's really cold inside here right now. I can see like the smoke coming from my mouth. So yeah, 15 degrees Celsius. means that we are allowed to charge at 28 kilowatts. Keep in mind that this is protecting the battery from lithium plating. It's not necessarily because the car can't charge faster. It could, but it would damage the battery. So it's throttling to keep the battery safe. Insane! 40 kilowatts. We have been there for over 45 minutes and we are just at 40 kilowatts and just at 63%. Battery temperature is now up to room temperature, 23.3 degrees Celsius. Still a little bit on the low side, but we are closing into an optimal starting time for charging. But we are now at 40 kilowatts at 64%. We can expect this to go a little bit more up. But of course, we are also reaching a high state of charge. So at some point, we will reach equilibrium between the maximum charging rate that the battery pack wants and what it can get, depending on the temperature of the battery, really. So the Tesla has a pretty smart system where it uses the motors to generate heat that goes into the battery. And the way they can do this is via their octovalve system, which you might have heard of, which is basically an advanced way to send the heating and cooling around the car. It can combine the loops of the cabin here with the battery, and yeah, it's a very smart way to heat up the battery without a PTC heater, which is the traditional way to have a heating element, which is really inefficient. This is also inefficient because it purposely runs the motor in an inefficient way to generate heat. But a PTC heater for general heating, especially when you're not driving, is very inefficient. So it's a great way to save money. It's a great way to make the car heating more efficient. Some people have a PTC heater would probably help here, heating up the battery much faster than the rear motor in this case can do. And it would be interesting to see and test if we could do that. But I don't have the ability to do that right now. Anyways, we have been here for 50 minutes. 50 minutes and we are at 73% state of charge. And of course, we are charging at 50 kilowatts right now. So we are at the BMW i3 level of charging speed, which is not really a great thing. It's a slow charging speed, but we are at 73%, so we can kind of accept the 50 kilowatts right now. Anyways, 29.8 degrees Celsius is the battery pack temperature, so a little bit more, I think 35 degrees, something like that, and we will get the maximum charging speed that the car wants, but it's also based on state of charge, of course. We are getting high into the pack, and we are just charging to 80% today. I'm not sitting here any more than that. I need to get the heat on, because I'm freezing. I'm freezing inside here. It's very cold outside. It feels very cold outside. It's just -3 degrees Celsius, but yeah, it feels really, really cold here. I think it's because we are close to the ocean, maybe something. If you know, leave a comment down below. I feel like this is way colder than -15 degrees in Oslo. I'm in Western Norway right now. If you know, leave a comment down below. I can feel the car rocking a little bit. I'm not sure if this is the heat pump going or actually the rear motor. Anyways, it's normal to have some kind of vibrations in the car, especially in a Tesla, because of their heating system. We are at 33 degrees Celsius in the battery. I want to continue and keep going a little bit. We are reaching 80% very, very soon. So that means from, I don't remember where we came in at around 40% to 80%, 1 hour, which is absolutely insane. I'll set the charging limit to 100%. We are at 50 kilowatts now. We are still sharing with the guy beside us here in the Model S, which has stayed there for even longer than I have. I don't know what he is doing. Doesn't really matter because we are getting 50 kilowatts. We will max out at like 74 if we were split, but he is probably getting around 20 kilowatts or something, so we have more power to go. We are not limited by the charger. That's all I'm trying to say right now. 33 degrees, 33.3 degrees Celsius. I want to keep going a little bit because we are reaching optimal charging speeds very soon. And yeah, 50 kilowatts at 79%. This is kind of like what you expect. You expect a little bit higher actually for this battery pack, if I remember correctly. But 50 kilowatts is not really that bad. This basically means that we came in at around 40%. We are at 80% now. The battery is now at 35 degrees Celsius, which means it's optimal for fast charging. And it used 40% of really slow charging. Like, I've been at for 1 hour right now. 1 hour. 1 hour to charge around 40%. I can't remember the state of charge when I came in. I'll leave it here. Anyways, with super slow charging to heat up the battery to get to the optimal charging temperature. And that's why you don't do this. You precondition to the supercharger, or you precondition before you leave, preferably while you're plugged in at home, then you don't use the battery. But it doesn't really matter. Preheat before you leave, especially if you're going on a trip where you need to fast charge. And if you can't do that, just drive the car hard, brake, drive hard, then you will add heat into the battery and charge much faster. There are many solutions to this problem, and I really made this problem myself. We're now down to 49 kilowatts at 83%, 50 kilowatts now, so around 50 kilowatts. And I need to turn off on the heating here soon because I'm freezing to death. Okay, I just checked. We came in here at 43%. We are at 83% now. We have been here for exactly 1 hour. So 40%. So 40% of the battery in 1 hour with super slow charging. 1 hour to charge 40% of the battery. That's pretty insane. And that's because we charged when we were at 0 degrees in the battery, 0 degrees Celsius in the battery. So that's why you precondition and heat the battery before charging. If not, you will stay here for such a long time. Now the battery is at 37.5 degrees Celsius. This is optimal charging temperature, and we are still declining. Why? That's because we have reached such a high state of charge. So this is expected. So we have reached equilibrium. So there is really not much more to say other than that we have been here for over 1 hour. We have charged about 42% or something. And this is a 60 kilowatt hour battery. So 42% of that is not much energy. Really slow, and this shows what happens if you get into the supercharger at 0 degrees Celsius in the battery, and that it's cold outside, of course. So preheat, precondition, or just drive the car hard before reaching a supercharger. I also want to mention that I'm doing extreme winter testing with this LFP car. I'm going to drive it down to minus 20, even lower than that, degrees Celsius. We are going to charge it, preheating. How does it work? Is this car able to keep the heat in the battery at such low temperatures? And everything comes on this channel. I'm also planning an adventure build for this car. So stay tuned for an adventure build, road trips and cold weather testing, which you get on Roaming Norway. I think that was it for this video. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something, why you preheat, why you precondition to the charger, and what happens if you don't. And the reasons, like I talked about lithium plating, that it damages the battery. This is to protect the battery. It's not necessarily a physical limitation. We could charge faster, we would get lithium plating, and you damage the battery. You get less energy available in the battery, more degradation, or you can just permanently imbalance the entire pack as well. So that's why the car protects against this. We are at 46 kilowatts at 87%. This is more like the expected curve of this LFP battery pack, because we are up to 38.5 degrees Celsius in the battery. I'll unplug now because we have reached equilibrium, and yeah, over an hour to charge 40 something percent of the small battery. Absolutely insane, and I don't recommend trying this at home. If you like this video, please let me know in the comments. I'll read all the comments and reply to all the comments that I find interesting or that has a question. So please just leave a comment down below, and I hope you learned something from this video. We can actually see now that the battery is 41 degrees Celsius. We have all the regen back in the car, and yeah, that's nice to see. So with a cold battery you will get dots here indicating that you have less regen available. Yeah, I need to wait for this car to heat up so it defogs. You can see here I've turned the temperature up high because I'm freezing.